I never thought my 25th birthday would be the day my family would betray me. 3 years ago, I was kicked out of my childhood home, without warning, forced to rebuild my life from scratch, while my parents diverted resources to my siblings. Now, after purchasing my first house through sheer determination and countless sleepless nights, they're demanding 60% ownership, calling it a family asset. The audacity is breathtaking. Before I tell you how I fought back against this ultimate betrayal, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and subscribe if you believe family should support, not exploit you. Growing up as the oldest son in the Warren family, I always believed family meant something sacred. My father, Jake, was a successful attorney who prided himself on his negotiation skills and sharp mind. My mother, Diana, taught high school literature and always emphasized the importance of family bonds through the classic novels she loved. My sister, Amanda, was the academic star determined to become a doctor since she was 12. My brother, Tyler, was the athlete showing tremendous promise in basketball from an early age. And me, I was Grayson, the responsible oldest child who tried to hold everything together. Our family had many traditions, but birthday celebrations were special. Each year we would gather for elaborate parties, especially for milestone birthdays. When my siblings turned 16, my parents rented venues and invited dozens of guests. These celebrations made me feel secure in my place within our family. I looked forward to my 25th birthday with anticipation, seeing it as a significant milestone. After graduating with my software engineering degree, I made the decision to continue living at home while working for a promising tech startup. The salary was decent, but not enough to immediately afford a house in our expensive area. I contributed to household expenses, paid rent to my parents, and helped with chores. It was a practical arrangement that benefited everyone. I was saving aggressively for a down payment on my own place while supporting the family I loved. As my 25th birthday approached, I felt optimistic about my future. I had recently been informed of an upcoming promotion at work, which would significantly increase my salary. My house fund was growing steadily, and I estimated I could afford my own place within 2 years. I planned to share this good news with my family during my birthday dinner. I even purchased thoughtful gifts for my parents to show my appreciation for their support all these years. A luxury watch for my father, and a pearl necklace for my mother that had caught her eye months ago. I noticed my family whispering and exchanging secretive texts in the weeks leading up to my birthday. When I entered rooms, conversations would suddenly stop. I caught glimpses of my mother making lists and my father reviewing documents. Naturally, I assumed they were planning a surprise celebration. The thought warmed my heart and made me feel valued. Little did I know how wrong my assumptions were. About 2 weeks before my birthday, the atmosphere at home began to shift. My parents held family meetings that excluded me. When I asked about them, they dismissed my concerns with vague explanations about future planning and family logistics. My sister Amanda started avoiding eye contact with me. I once found her crying in her room, but when I asked what was wrong, she quickly wiped her tears and said it was nothing important. Tyler, usually carefree and open with me, began acting strangely too. Several times he started telling me something only to abruptly change the subject when our parents walked by. I once caught him looking at me with what seemed like pity, before quickly averting his gaze. One evening, I accidentally glimpsed my father researching family property ownership rights and room repurposing guidelines on his laptop. Another day, I overheard my mother on the phone, with what sounded like a real estate agent discussing market rental rates and tenant requirements. These incidents triggered a sense of unease, but I pushed my concerns aside. Perhaps they were helping me research housing options. As a birthday surprise, I held on to that hope, refusing to consider alternatives. The morning of my 25th birthday arrived with an eerie silence. No birthday wishes greeted me at breakfast. The kitchen, usually buzzing with activity, felt cold and abandoned. My mother, who traditionally made my favorite breakfast on birthdays, was nowhere to be seen. My father grunted a distracted hello without looking up from his newspaper. Neither Amanda nor Tyler came down before I left for work. At the office, my colleagues surprised me with a small cake and card. Their thoughtfulness highlighted the strange behavior of my family even more starkly. I returned home that evening with a mixture of confusion and dread weighing on my chest. The moment I stepped through the door, I knew something was deeply wrong. My entire family sat in the living room, faces solemn, an unmistakable tension filling the air. My father cleared his throat and delivered the news that would shatter my world. "Grayson, we need to discuss something important. Your mother and I have decided that you need to move out. We're giving you 3 days to find alternative accommodation." I stood frozen, unable to process his words. Was this some bizarre birthday joke? But their faces told me this was deadly serious. "We need to prioritize resources for Amanda's medical school applications and Tyler's athletic development," my father continued in his courtroom voice. "We found someone willing to pay top dollar to rent your room. It's a financial decision that benefits the family as a whole." The reactions of my family members that day are forever seared into my memory. My mother, Diana, who had always portrayed herself as the nurturing parent, couldn't even look me in the eye as my world collapsed. She twisted her wedding ring nervously, a habit she had when uncomfortable, and spoke in a rehearsed manner. "This is a difficult decision, Grayson, but necessary for our family's future. You have a good job now. It's time you stood on your own 2 feet." Her words felt like stones dropping into the pit of my stomach. The woman who had tucked me in every night until I was 12 now spoke as if I were a tenant whose lease had expired. Amanda, my sister, did something worse. She actually blamed me. "You've been living here too long anyway," she snapped, her voice tinged with resentment. "Some of us have real ambitions that require support. Your presence is holding back the family. Do you know how much your room could bring in monthly rent? That money could help fund my medical school applications." The betrayal in her words cut deep. We had been close growing up, sharing secrets and supporting each other through high school and college. Now she saw me as nothing but a financial obstacle to her dreams. Tyler, my brother, remained silent throughout most of the conversation, staring at the carpet pattern as if it contained hidden messages. When my father asked him directly if he agreed with the decision, he gave a small, reluctant nod without making eye contact. His silence hurt almost as much as Amanda's accusations. Then came the final insult. My father, in what he probably considered generosity, offered me a support package, a $500 loan, to help secure a room rental somewhere. "Of course we'll need that back within 6 months, with 8% interest," he added, as if discussing terms with a client rather than helping his son. Not once during this entire conversation did anyone mention my birthday. The gifts I had purchased for them sat in my closet, wrapped and forgotten. When I reminded them what day it was, my mother frowned as if I had mentioned something inappropriate at a funeral. "This isn't really the time to discuss that, Grayson. We need to focus on the logistics of your move." The next 3 days passed in a blur of disbelief and frantic searching. The rental market was brutal, especially with my limited budget and urgent timeline. I finally found a tiny room in a shared apartment with 4 strangers 15 miles from my workplace. The room barely fit a bed and desk with peeling paint and a window that wouldn't fully close. The bathroom was shared with all 4 roommates and perpetually damp with mold growing in the corners. The neighborhood didn't feel safe with frequent police sirens throughout the night. My commute doubled, costing me more in gas and adding hours of stress to each day. Several times in those first few weeks I arrived late to work, earning concerned looks from my manager. The apartment was noisy at all hours, making sleep difficult. The kitchen was usually a disaster area, forcing me to spend extra money on takeout food or settle for simple sandwiches. Some nights I would skip dinner altogether to stretch my budget further. My health began to suffer from stress and poor nutrition. I lost weight, developed persistent headaches, and caught every cold that circulated through the office. The financial strain was immense. Monthly rent took nearly 60% of my income after taxes, leaving little for savings or emergencies. My social life withered. I could not invite friends over to my cramped, depressing room. The long commute left little energy for socializing after work. Gradually, invitations stopped coming, as friends assumed I was too busy or uninterested. The isolation deepened my depression, creating a cycle that affected my work performance. 3 months after moving out, I nearly lost my job when I missed an important deadline due to exhaustion and lack of focus. Throughout this period, my family remained largely silent. The only communication came in the form of text messages from my father reminding me about the loan repayment schedule. When I texted to ask how everyone was doing, responses were brief and impersonal. "We're fine. Busy with Amanda's applications. No questions about my well-being or new living situation." One Sunday morning, scrolling through social media, I discovered photos of a large family celebration for Amanda's medical school scholarship. Everyone looked happy, toasting with champagne in our backyard. I had received no invitation or even notification of her achievement. Later that month, I saw photos of my old bedroom completely transformed into a yoga and meditation space for my mother. The desk where I had coded my first programs was gone, replaced by bamboo flooring and minimalist decor. It was as if my existence had been erased from the family home. The final blow came during holiday season when Tyler posted photos of a family vacation to Hawaii. The four of them stood smiling on a beach, sunglasses on, cocktails in hand. I received only a generic holiday card with pre-printed greetings and 4 hastily scrawled signatures. Through a mutual friend, I learned that my parents had been telling people I had chosen to move out to find my independence. They had rewritten the narrative, entirely casting themselves as supportive parents respecting their adult son's decision. This deliberate misrepresentation of events felt like being kicked while already down. In the depths of this darkness, I made a decision that would ultimately change everything. If my family had abandoned me, I would pour all my energy into building a new life. I began working harder than ever before, staying late at the office to use the faster internet and better workspace. After hours, I took on freelance coding projects, often working until 2 or 3 in the morning to build my portfolio and increase my income. My dedication did not go unnoticed. 8 months after being forced out of my home, I received a promotion that came with a 30% salary increase. With my improved financial situation, I found a slightly better apartment closer to work, cutting my commute time in half. But the real breakthrough came from an idea born in those sleepless nights. Tracking my limited finances had become an obsession, and I noticed how inadequate existing personal finance apps were for people in precarious situations. I began developing my own application, focusing on financial recovery and emergency budgeting for people experiencing sudden life changes. At a tech conference I attended for work, I presented an early prototype of my app during an innovation showcase. That's where I met Jason, an angel investor with a background in fintech. Unlike most investors who focused solely on profit potential, Jason connected with the human story behind my product. He saw potential where others might have seen just another finance app. "This solves a real problem, Grayson," he told me after my presentation. "Too many financial tools are designed for people who already have stability. Your approach addresses the chaos of financial disruption. I'd like to discuss this further." Jason became more than just a potential investor. He became a mentor and friend, offering guidance on business development and connecting me with his network of industry contacts. For the first time since my birthday disaster, I felt like someone believed in me. Slowly, I built a support network of colleagues and friends in the tech community. People who valued me for my skills and character, not what I could financially contribute to their dreams. This new foundation gave me the strength to continue developing my app while maintaining my full-time job. The next 2 years were transformative. Through relentless work and Jason's strategic guidance, my financial recovery app moved from concept to reality. The launch exceeded all expectations, with technology blogs praising its innovative approach to emergency budgeting and financial resilience. "Finance Fortress is unlike anything on the market," wrote one influential tech reviewer. "It approaches personal finance from the perspective of someone rebuilding, not someone who has always had stability." This authenticity shows in every feature. Jason and his investment partners provided $500,000 in funding, allowing me to hire a small team and expand the app's capabilities. Within the first month, we reached 100,000 downloads, with user testimonials flooding our feedback channels. The success translated into financial stability I could only dream of during those dark days in my moldy rented room. By my 28th birthday, I had saved enough for a substantial down payment on a modest but charming house in a safe, friendly neighborhood. The property wasn't large or luxurious, but it had character: a two-bedroom bungalow with a small backyard garden and proximity to a community park. The day I signed the mortgage papers remains one of the proudest moments of my life. Standing in the empty living room after the closing key in hand, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. This space was mine, earned through perseverance and resilience in the face of betrayal. I celebrated with a small housewarming gathering, inviting colleagues, my new friends, and Jason, who brought an expensive bottle of champagne and a toolbox as gifts. To building something lasting, he toasted, raising his glass. The irony wasn't lost on me. My family had torn everything down, but from those ruins, I had built something stronger. Noticeably absent from this celebration were any members of my family. I hadn't invited them, and they hadn't asked about my life in nearly 3 years. The separation had become my new normal, a dull ache that occasionally flared, but mostly remained in the background of my busy life. Then, approximately 1 month after moving into my new home, my phone displayed a name I hadn't seen in years: my mother. The call came on a Sunday morning as I was having coffee in my backyard. "Grayson, darling," she began, her voice warm, as if the estrangement had never happened. "We heard through Linda's daughter that you bought a house. Congratulations. Your father and I are so proud of you." The conversation felt surreal as she asked detailed questions about the property value, the mortgage terms, and how I had afforded the down payment. She mentioned how smart it was to invest in real estate, and how the whole family had been thinking about property investments lately. 3 days later, Amanda appeared unannounced at my front door. She hugged me awkwardly, claiming she wanted to rebuild our sibling bond and put the past behind us. Throughout her visit, she took photos of every room with her phone, asked to see my home office where I ran my business, and inquired about whether I had obtained homeowners insurance and how my property taxes were structured. My father's approach was even less subtle. He sent an email with the subject line, "Financial advice for new homeowners." The message contained suggestions about adding his name to the deed for liability protection and creating a family trust that would include my property. He offered to draw up the paperwork himself at no charge, emphasizing how this arrangement would benefit everyone. Tyler was the last to make contact, texting to ask if he could crash at my place for a few months to save on rent. When I reluctantly agreed to discuss it over dinner, he arrived with a car full of boxes, clearly expecting immediate accommodation. During dinner, he mentioned casually that our parents thought it made financial sense for him to live with me long-term, with the family helping manage my property decisions. The pattern became clear. Within weeks, all 4 family members had visited multiple times, using my kitchen, lounging in my living room, and making suggestions about improvements we could make to our family's newest asset. My mother even brought paint samples for refreshing the guest room, without consulting me. A growing sense of unease settled in my stomach. Their sudden interest after years of silence felt calculated rather than genuine. I began documenting their visits and saving all communications, a habit formed during the darkest days after my eviction, when I learned that having evidence matters. Then came the morning that confirmed all my suspicions. Saturday breakfast at my kitchen table was interrupted by a certified letter delivery. The envelope bore the letterhead of my father's law firm colleague, Stanley Winters, attorney at law. With shaking hands, I opened it to find a formal legal notice that stunned me into silence. The document stated that my family, the same people who had thrown me out without support, was claiming 60% ownership interest in my home. The justification listed was breathtaking in its audacity. Whereas the Warren family provided formative educational support, during which time Grayson Warren developed the programming skills that led to his current financial position. Whereas the Warren family provided 25 years of emotional, psychological, and developmental support, constituting a significant investment in Grayson Warren's future earning capacity. Whereas parental financial support for university education constitutes an investment in future returns. The document conveniently omitted that I had attended college on scholarship and student loans, which I was still repaying. Whereas the $500 loan provided constitutes seed investment in Grayson Warren's future, that loan, which I had repaid with interest within 6 months, was now being characterized as a venture capital investment. Whereas the Warren family made significant sacrifices to ensure Grayson Warren's ultimate success, the letter demanded that I transfer 60% ownership of my house to my family, dividing it equally among my parents, Amanda and Tyler. It specified that I had 14 days to comply voluntarily before they would pursue legal remedies with substantial evidence of family contribution to assets. I sat at my kitchen table for hours, the letter before me, unable to process the magnitude of this betrayal. The home I had purchased entirely with money earned, after being ejected from my family, was now being claimed as a family asset. The people who had abandoned me on my birthday, who had ignored my struggles and hardships, now wanted to appropriate my hard-won stability. That afternoon I called the only person I truly trusted, Jason. His reaction mirrored my own disbelief. "This is beyond outrageous," he said after hearing the full story. "But don't panic. I know someone who can help." 2 days later, I sat in the office of Maria Sanchez, a family property dispute attorney with 20 years of experience. Jason had made the introduction briefly, explaining my situation. Maria's office felt secure with its dark wood furniture and walls lined with law books, an environment where reason and justice might prevail. "First, let me assure you," Maria said, after reviewing the letter, "this claim has virtually no legal merit. It's an intimidation tactic, not a legitimate legal position." Relief flooded through me, but Maria was quick to add caution. "However, we need to respond decisively. Your family, particularly your father with his legal background, clearly believes they can pressure you into compliance. We developed a comprehensive counter-strategy." Maria helped me gather documentation, proving my complete financial independence, since being forced out rental agreements, showing my housing costs, pay stubs, demonstrating my income sources, bank statements, tracking my savings growth, mortgage application documents, confirming I had received no family assistance. I reached out to former roommates who provided statements about my living conditions after the eviction. Colleagues wrote letters confirming my work ethic and the additional freelance projects I had taken on to increase my income. Jason supplied documentation regarding the app development process and funding timeline, establishing that my success came entirely from my own efforts and new professional relationships. Most importantly, I compiled a chronological record of my family's actions, text messages, from the day they asked me to leave emails about the loan repayment and the long silence broken only when they learned about my home purchase. I included screenshots of social media posts showing family celebrations I was excluded from alongside the recent flurry of communications following news of my property purchase. 2 weeks after receiving the demand letter, we arranged a meeting at Maria's office. My family arrived with their attorney, Stanley Winters, all displaying confident expressions that quickly faltered when they saw the extensive documentation spread across the conference table. Maria began professionally but firmly addressing the claim point by point, while I sat silently beside her trying to maintain composure. My client was ejected from the family home on his 25th birthday. With 3 days' notice, she stated, placing printed text messages on the table. He received a loan of $500, which was repaid with interest documented here. She placed the payment receipts beside the texts. For approximately 30 months following his departure, your clients made no meaningful attempt to maintain family relationships. She continued displaying a timeline of the minimal contact alongside social media screenshots of family events. Mr. Warren developed his successful application without any assistance, financial or otherwise, from the Warren family. As Maria methodically dismantled their claim, I watched my family's reactions. My father maintained a stoic expression, but his reddening face betrayed his anger. My mother repeatedly dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, playing the role of the hurt parent. Amanda stared at the evidence with widening eyes, particularly the text messages showing my desperate search for housing after being ejected. Tyler seemed increasingly uncomfortable, shifting in his chair and avoiding eye contact with everyone. When Maria played a recorded voice message from my father demanding loan repayment just days after I had moved into the moldy apartment, Tyler abruptly stood up. "I cannot do this," he announced, his voice cracking. "This is wrong. All of it." He walked out of the conference room, leaving a stunned silence behind him. His departure seemed to fracture the unified front my family had presented. Amanda began whispering frantically to my mother, who shook her head repeatedly. Their attorney Stanley reviewed our evidence with growing discomfort, occasionally glancing at my father with questioning looks. Amanda finally spoke directly to me, her voice small. "I did not know all of this, Grayson. They told me you chose to leave, that you abandoned us. Dad said you owed the family after all they invested in you." My father cut her off sharply. "Be quiet, Amanda. This is a legal proceeding." Maria seized the moment. "Mr. Warren, the evidence clearly establishes that your claim has no merit. Furthermore, should you pursue this matter, we are prepared to file a countersuit for emotional distress and defamation based on the false narrative you've spread about my client's departure from your home." The meeting continued for another hour, with Stanley increasingly advising my father to reconsider his position. Eventually, even my father had to acknowledge the futility of their claim, though he did so with visible resentment rather than contrition. As the meeting concluded, he delivered a final blow intended to hurt me. Standing up and gathering his papers, he looked directly at me for the first time. "You are no longer a son of ours. Consider all family ties severed permanently." My mother sobbed but followed him out of the room without speaking to me. Amanda lingered briefly, conflict evident on her face before hurrying after them. I remained seated, emotionally exhausted, but strangely relieved. Maria squeezed my shoulder supportively. "It went as well as could be expected," she said. "They'll withdraw the claim formally within days. Their attorney knows they have no case." 7 days later, I received official notification that all claims against my property had been withdrawn. The legal threat was over, but the emotional aftermath was just beginning. That evening, as I sat on my back porch trying to process everything, my phone rang. It was Tyler. "Can we talk?" he asked hesitantly. "Not about the house or anything. Just talk." We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. Tyler looked younger somehow, more like the brother I remembered before everything fell apart. He spoke in rushed, nervous bursts. "I knew what they were planning with the house claim," he confessed. "I tried to tell them it was wrong, but they wouldn't listen. Dad said it was a simple matter of family resources being allocated fairly." He revealed that our parents had manipulated both him and Amanda for years, using financial support as leverage to control their choices. I was afraid to object, because I thought they might cut me off too. "I saw what happened to you. I was a coward." 2 days later, I received a lengthy email from Amanda. She explained how our parents had framed my eviction as a mutual decision, telling her I had wanted independence. She detailed the growing pattern of control they exerted, making her medical school acceptance conditional on her supporting their financial schemes. "They planned your removal for months," she wrote. "They calculated exactly how much rental income your room would generate and decided it was more valuable than keeping you in the family. I am deeply ashamed I did not question them more forcefully." These revelations brought mixed emotions. While vindicated that my siblings finally saw the truth, I mourned the years of relationship we had lost. The family I had known was gone forever, replaced by the knowledge that my parents had viewed me primarily as a financial asset to be managed. I decided to maintain distance from my parents, but cautiously rebuild connections with Tyler and Amanda. I invited them to dinner at my home, where we spoke honestly about the past and possibilities for the future. It was awkward and painful at times, but also the beginning of healing. In the months that followed, I sought additional healing through a support group for adults with toxic family relationships. Hearing others' stories helped me understand I wasn't alone in my experience. Many members had faced similar betrayals, and their resilience inspired me to move forward rather than remain trapped in resentment. I began creating a chosen family from trusted friends and colleagues. Jason became like an older brother, offering guidance without control. My team at work evolved into a supportive community who celebrated my successes and supported me through challenges. Weekend cookouts in my small backyard became regular events, filling my home with laughter and genuine connection. As my app continued to grow in popularity, Jason suggested we formalize our business relationship. Together, we founded WorthGuard Technologies, a small software company focused on financial resilience tools. We hired 10 employees, including 2 other survivors of family financial abuse who brought valuable perspective to our products. Tyler eventually came to work for the company after deciding professional basketball wasn't his true passion. His marketing skills proved valuable, and working together helped rebuild our brotherhood on new, healthier terms. Amanda, now in medical residency, visited when her schedule allowed, slowly becoming the sister I had missed. 1 year after the failed legal claim, I celebrated my 29th birthday in my own home, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about my well-being. For the first time since childhood, I actually enjoyed my birthday without anxiety or expectations. Jason brought news that our company had been valued at $5 million by a major investment firm interested in expansion funding. As the evening wound down and guests departed, I stood in my living room, surveying what I had built, not just the physical house, but the life and relationships within it. The journey from betrayal to stability had taught me that family is defined by love and mutual respect, not biology or legal obligations. I realized that sometimes being forced to stand alone is what teaches us our true strength. The family, who had seen me as nothing but a financial consideration, had inadvertently given me the gift of self-reliance and the wisdom to recognize genuine connection. My house stands as testimony not just to financial success, but to the power of perseverance. When the foundation you thought was secure crumbles beneath you, you learn to build something stronger, something truly yours. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after someone you trusted let you down? How did you find the strength to start over? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Remember, sometimes the family we choose becomes more important than the family we were born into. Thank you for listening, and never forget your worth is not determined by those who failed to value you.